What is up, guys? This is Pinzo back with another video today, and what I have for you guys is some OverPrime. In the background, you guys are seeing the gameplay, and today we're going to be going over my first impressions of the game. This is what I thought was good, what I thought was bad, and what I thought needs some work. Before we jump into it, if you guys are new, please subscribe. 90% of you guys who have watched my videos recently are not subscribed. That's a huge number of you guys who are watching these videos who aren't subscribed. So if you just hit the button, just a little click for you guys, but it lets me know that you guys are enjoying the kind of content that I'm making. With that out of the way, we're going to jump straight into this. I'll keep it as brief as I can, but there are some parts that might get a little bit long. Starting us off with the good. The map is pretty good. It's 90% Paragon map with a couple notable exceptions that we'll talk about later, and it's not necessarily bad. I don't mind them copying a lot of the art style from Paragon, that kind of thing. There's a reason that people liked the game. It uses verticality very well for the most part, especially around mid lane. There's a lot of verticality. My only issue with it is a lot of characters struggle to use it upwards, if that makes sense. There's a lot of verticality being used to go down, but verticality being used to go up doesn't see quite as much use for most of the map. I don't think that's necessarily an issue. It's just a thought. I like the invis flowers and the pools. Those both actually feel pretty good. And next up, the fights. They actually feel pretty good. They actually flow pretty well. You can mostly tell what's going on. None of the abilities were seeming to cause lag spikes or anything like that, or dropping FPS. None of that stuff was happening, which felt pretty good. The game itself feels fairly optimized, which is nice. That's something that a lot of these sort of beta games can struggle with, and it is nice to see that Overprime seems to have their optimization mostly down. There are a couple things that make it feel a little jittery that we'll talk about later, but for the most part, the actual fights don't seem to drop FPS or cause lag at all. Moving into the bad, yeah, the good section was a little short for some reasons that we're about to talk about because the bad section's coming up. So the map, I mentioned this earlier, the map, as well as I like the look of the map and the feel of the map, the verticality, I don't like the two tower setup. The two tower setup to me just limits the amount of things you can do within a game. It feels very squished. It feels like the map is really oblong. It's really wide for how tall it is, and I think it just feels really weird. Next up, heroes. When you're playing a good hero, the game's actually pretty fun. When you're playing a bad hero, the game feels like ass. And I don't necessarily mean that based on a tier list, but some of the heroes just feel really bad. My first notable hero is Shinbi. Bora, I think is what they call her. She was my favorite character in January, actually. She was my favorite character to play in Overprime in January. She's now my least favorite character to play. I will literally not play her again for the next 2 weeks of Overprime unless they change something on her because she was that bad to play. Starting with her Q locks your camera. When you cast her Q, it's on instant cast. Last time you had a targeter on it, and this time it's on instant cast, but it locks your camera into the direction that you threw it, meaning you can't look around while the ability is getting thrown out, which is nauseating. It's horrible. Her dashes also stutter a lot at the end. There's no smooth stop to them, which also feels really bad. Her ultimate gets canceled by anything as well, which feels really bad because it has a really long wind up to it for being a single target ultimate. It has a really long wind up where you can get blocked out of it, and it gets stopped by random things that you'd think wouldn't stop it. Outside of that, there are some heroes. Rampage ultimate just doesn't feel very good. Kalari feels really good because I think she's kind of busted, and that means that while you're playing her, the game is fun. While you're playing Gideon, the game is fun. I just don't think that's a really good thing for the game where you only have like 9 of your 18 heroes that are fun, and that's because they're broken. Like, that doesn't seem like a good way to have the game, but that's just me. Objectives. I actually like the Prime Spirit. The Prime Spirit's a pretty cool objective. To my understanding, it's like the dragon in League. I believe those words make sense to people who play League. It gives you a different buff each time you kill it. So that's kind of cool. There's like a fire, air, water, and earth one, I think. I'm not exactly sure what all of them do, to be honest. There's one, like the fire one makes towers less tanky while it's active, which is kind of cool. They're cool buffs. I like the Prime Spirit. The Prime Guardian, I don't like. Number one, the dunking mechanic is stupid. It's the reason it's stupid. I'll justify this one time, then you guys can stop asking me why it's dumb. It's dumb because you don't have to come out of base to check Prime. In Smite and League and other MOBAs, right, unless you're going to snipe it from across the map, which is, a rare occurrence that's not going to happen a lot. You have to come out of your base to face check. You have to be there. That's what I mean by face check. You have to physically be there at the Fire Giant, at the Baron, at the Prime to check it to know whether or not they're doing it and to have a chance to steal it. In this game, you don't have to do that. You actually get to turtle while they take it, and then you get the person who has the buff revealed on your mini map, and you know where they are because they have to come dunk it on your side of the map, by the way. So you get to turtle even harder to have a chance of doing this. Obviously, if you kill them, you'd have to dunk it, but you don't really have to dunk it to stop them from dunking it. Stopping the enemy team from dunking it is good enough if you're already on defense. So I don't like the fact that it gives you a second chance to fight an objective that you shouldn't have a second chance for. On top of that, I also don't like the Prime spawning in mid thing. It gives you a lot of presence on the map that you shouldn't have. You don't have to commit anyone to mid lane. You can full push 5-man down right lane while Prime pushes mid, and it forces the enemy team to defend. And I don't like that either. The whole thing, I just don't like the objective. Next up, melee auto attacks. So melee auto attacks have this thing going on where if you are strafing while you are meleeing a creep, it jitters your camera. So it flicks your camera to the creep when you hit it when you deal damage to it, but then it instantly flicks it back to where you were looking beforehand. And what this leads to is, you're probably seeing it on screen right now, a jittering effect while you're clearing camps, to where your crosshairs just all over the place, and it looks really bad. It looks like you're stuttering horribly. My guess is that this is for console. I don't know why this would be in on mouse and keyboard by default, but my guess is that this is for console to help console people be able to clear camps, because I guess, autoing a camp is really, really hard on controller. I don't know why it's on by default for mouse and keyboard, unless it's just something they're trying. All right, now we're going to go through a list of rapid fire things. These are kind of smaller things that I noticed that don't really need a whole explanation, but just things that I saw. The item shop, it's basically the same as last time. The interface isn't the worst. I think it could use some work. There's things like decimals. For some reason, your powered goes out to like 4 decimals, which just isn't necessary. There's no reason for that actually at all. It's a little bit cluttered, like the left side of the screen and the right side of the screen kind of overlap it sometimes, which is a little funky. The ability descriptions suck. This was a big note on my last video, is that they suck. They're horrible. I don't know why. There's no scaling on them. They only tell you half of what the ability actually does. It's like 8 words about what the ability says, and it doesn't really describe the ability. And then it tells you only the base damage, the cooldown, and the mana cost. And that's just not enough. On top of that, they're actually not updated based on the patch notes that we got that dropped with the game. So for those of you who don't know, on Friday, when the game became live, they dropped a patch with it. They were patch notes, blah, blah, blah. The ability descriptions aren't updated on those patch notes. So you're actually reading the old ability numbers, which is just something else that bugged me. The names, they're bad. I don't know who out here is defending Scott as a name, but they're just pretty bad. I understand that the original Paragon names are copyrighted or something like that. That these guys cannot use them. But like, they've got to come up with something better than Beatrice and Evelyn, right? Like those, like they're just bad. Like, if you need me to, I will legitimately make a video naming all the characters better than what OverPrime has currently named them, because they're just not good. Next up, not locking in a hero. Once you get onto the in-game screen where you're picking heroes, you are getting into a match. There is no getting put back into the lobby. For someone like AFKs, what happens is, whether or not they're hovering a hero or not hovering a hero, they're given a random hero and then put into the match. So if you don't lock in, even if you're hovering someone, you're given a random hero, which is just bad. It's just a really bad mechanic. You get AFKs put into lobbies because their game crashed in the lobby, and then they're just never playing the game because there's no way to put you back into like the main menu. You just get put into the game. This is just like, it's literally just something they need to take out of the game. It's going to ruin a bunch of games this whole week, that kind of stuff. It's not good. And my last point, the balance. I'm not going into any specifics, but the characters don't feel like they were balanced to be in the same game. They don't feel like they're balanced within their own kits. They don't feel like they're balanced compared to other people's kits. You have Gideon, whose right click and Q, his meteor and his suck, are really, really good. They're really strong abilities. They're huge AoEs. They have really long range. They do really good damage. His ultimate is trash. It's the worst ability in the game. It does less damage than his Q. It has the worst interface where it sucks you underneath it and you literally can't look straight up. So if you get hit by Gideon ultimate, you cannot shoot him because you're underneath him. That kind of thing. It's just bad. The character doesn't feel like it's balanced within his own kit. And then if you look at Shinbi, Shinbi's all of her abilities suck. Her E does not do as much damage as Gideon's abilities. Her Q does not do as much damage as Gideon's abilities. Both of those are way harder to hit. You have to commit your body to do damage with your E. Her ultimate is single target and does slightly more damage, but not that much after you, even if you stack it all the way up. The game does not feel like it's balanced within itself. It feels like they legitimately rolled dice to balance the characters. It feels completely random. And that's just something I don't like it. It's something that turns me away from the game based on, do these devs know how to balance their game? That's what it makes me think personally. And currently the answer is a big fat no. So that's a big turnoff for me currently. But that is all I've got for you guys. So if you guys enjoyed or didn't enjoy, if you guys agreed or disagreed, let me know in the comments down below. I'm curious what you guys think of this game now, and then I'm also curious what you guys will think of this game in 2 weeks. So be prepared for a follow-up video to this whole week thing. That is all I've got for you guys, though, in today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this sort of breakdown of my thoughts on OverPrime. They haven't changed a whole lot in the last 3 months since we played it, but hopefully you guys learned something new. As always, guys, I have been Pinzo. This video is Dunzo. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.